question. And again, most of my titles have nothing to do with the talk that I want to get out to you, but we'll get into that a little bit later. In the meantime, let's take our hymnals and turn to 241. The greatest thing. The greatest thing.
The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. I want to love you more. I want to love you more. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you. I want to serve you more. I want to serve you more. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you.
Oh, great voice this morning. Sounding good. Okay, I want to get into some of the announcements. Normally we go into our statement of being. We always follow along in our bulletin. But like I said today, I want to break that up a little bit. We get into routines and we do things out of memory, and we don't always put in that real juice, so to speak, into what we say and do because we're doing it by habit. So some of them I'm just going to skip today. We'll be back at it next Sunday. Don't worry. But again, I just wanted to break it up a little bit today so that we're not stuck in doing those things. By the way, when I get into the lesson, which is going to be a very, very short lesson, you'll all be wide awake instead of sleeping on me. So, some of the announcements, okay. Thursday, September 11th, we have the World Day of Prayer, and I don't know exactly what the board has planned for that. I know in the past we've done a lot of different things on that day, but what the significance of it is that all around the world, all the Unity churches are praying together to bring the world to peace, to bring it in love. And so it's a very powerful exercise, and we'll have a program here. Often, the last few years, we've had people come in that wanted to do something. All of you have some talents that you want to share with us, and on that day, we've given an opportunity for you to come in and pick out a half hour, an hour slot during the day and put forth what you want to put forth, whatever you're called to do, whether it's to sing a song or teach us how to play checkers or whatever it might be that you have that will bring and further the cause of world peace and unity. So keep that in mind. Sign-up sheet is in the bookstore, okay, so that you can pick a time slot. Yeah, very good. Between 12 and 6. All right. From 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., right? Okay. We don't want anybody here in the middle of the night. Friday, September 19th, movie night. Be Cool Runnings. The dinner will be served at 6:30, which is, enough to keep the hunger pangs off you and keep you comfortable for the evening. Then the movie starts at 7 o'clock, which is free. On Tuesdays, they have the Secret of Shambhala, which Roseanne Bells is facilitating. The final class will be this Tuesday, right? So you want to make sure you get in on that. On Thursdays, we have the Quest for Truth, which is a class that begins September 4th this week with Reverend Hook, so you want to take advantage of that. The rest of what's in the announcements, I assume, is there anybody here that can't read what's in the announcements? Raise your hand, I'll read it to you. Otherwise, go ahead and peruse it when you have a chance and make yourself familiar with all the things that are going on around here at Unity East Church. We want you to be a part of that and feel that you can take part of it or feel that you could lead some of that. There might be some classes or exercises that you have an interest in sharing with the rest of us. By golly, come forward and let the board know so that they can get that into the schedule so that you can do it, okay? You'd be surprised. You may have something that everybody wants to be a part of, and what a great experience that would be for all involved in it. So don't hesitate to let the board know if you have some interest, some talent, some time that you want to share with all of us. We'd appreciate that. I guess this would be a good time for us to do the Lord's Prayer. And as we do that, get yourselves comfortable, relax, and we'll go into our meditation. The meditation is just to let our minds relax and let come in what comes in. So get ourselves quiet, peaceful, uncross your feet and hands and that so you can just relax.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
As we close our eyes and just relax, taking a nice deep breath, fill your lungs with air, and as it escapes, allow all attention to flow out with it, relaxing our bodies, relaxing our minds, opening ourselves up to Spirit, opening ourselves up to all the good that is waiting to serve us. The Lord said, I am your resurrection, and I am your life. You live in me because you live in God. And everyone lives in me as I live in everyone. Can you then perceive unworthiness in a brother or sister. Would make no sense. Could you see unworthiness in ourselves with God at our core, made in any image and likeness? That would make no sense. Believe in a redemption simply because it's been accomplished. We were given an example how our lives are eternal. Eternal forever in joy, in love, in peace. Eternal in tranquility. And we say, thank you, Lord. We thank you for this blessing that could only come from you. As you created us in your likeness and image, in spirit, we are eternal beings. We are eternal energy. And we acknowledge, we accept that gift. Yes, there's times when our human consciousness, our ego, gets in the way and blocks that joy, that love, that peace. But it can't erase it. It can't take it away. It can't make it not exist. For you've always existed. You exist now and will always exist into eternity. And so do we. We ask only that you help us understand that you brush away our human failings, our human shortcomings from our minds, from our thoughts that get in the way. And open us completely, thoroughly, to the joy of knowing you, loving you, and serving you. Now, as we just let our minds wander in the silence, know that each breath you take is taking in complete, wonderful health, joy, peace, love. While we have this channel of love and healing open, call out the names of those that you know that need and want the healing Jack and Dolores, amen. Amen. USA. Lord, you hear our prayers. Send that blessing, send that healing out to those names, those individuals that have mentioned, and those that have not been. That your healing power returns them to full health. It returns their joy and peace. And this we ask in the name of the Son. Amen. If you'd like to do your first song.
There's a saying old says that love is blind. Still we're often told, seek and ye shall find. So I'm going to seek a certain lad I've had in mind. Looking everywhere, haven't found him yet. He's the big affair I cannot forget. Only man I ever think of with regret. I'd like to add his initial to my monograph. Tell me, where is the shepherd for this lost lamb? There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that he turns out to be someone who'll watch over me. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the wood. I know I could always be good to one who'll watch over me. Although he may not be the man some girls think of as handsome, to my heart he carries the key. Won't you tell him, please, to put on some speed? Follow my lead. Oh, how I need someone who'll watch over me.
Thank you. It was wonderful. If we could just get you to put a little bit more feeling into it. That's fantastic. All right. Let me, excuse me a minute. Okay. Sorry. It's an old speaker's trick. They tell you to break the tension for yourself is to imagine your audience sitting in their underwear. And couldn't help it there. I said I had a short lesson today, and I want to try to do that. I want to accomplish that. Although I get long-winded to ask anybody that I've cornered in a conversation. They usually don't get away too quickly. But I did want to cover some things. I wanted to talk about unity. I wanted to talk about how our mind works. I wanted to talk about healing, because healing was one of the main things about unity when it started. For those of you who don't know the history of it, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore started it over 110 years ago, and they both had physical ailments. And through their studies with other groups and then between themselves and studying the Bible and applying what Christ taught, they were both cured, or if you'd rather say their ailments went away. Myrtle had TB, and Charles had a hip problem that he had from a child when it was some kind of a bicycle accident or something that broke his hip, and so he walked with a limp all the time and had to favor it. And both of them had those symptoms just disappear completely through utilizing the principles taught by Christ. So the people around them said, well, how in the world did this happen? Teach us how to do that. And so they began with some classes teaching the people that were around them what they had used and how they came to realize that the mind is the most powerful thing that we have. And it is connected directly with God because it is God. Remember, we're created in the image and likeness of God. This is not God, okay? It's in here, it's spirit. It's what animates this. It's what makes it work. And so by applying that, they began to have others found the same thing was happening for them. They were able to heal. But the healing comes, you don't want to get caught in the idea that the healing comes to the body first. It doesn't. The mind has to be healed. And again, that's a misnomer because the mind is already healed. That mind, when I say the mind, I'm talking about capital M mind, spirit, okay? That is health. It is love. It is peace. It is joy. So there's no healing to go on there. What happens is our mind, small m, kind of gets caught up in things that block that natural flow of energy, okay? And when we do that, that's when illnesses and diseases and things like that can sneak into this thing. And then we say, I'm ailing, I have this or I have that. And you don't really have that because you're spirit. Spirit can't have an illness, a disease. It can't happen. So we our mind tricks us into a lot of things. And that mind I'm talking about, that small m mind, is our ego. So I'll use that word to be able to differentiate between mind and my mind, ego, and how we get caught up in that. One of the things that's, and I always kind of relied on science a lot for things because, I don't know, I'm twisted that way, I guess. It just, I always want I want to know the physics behind it. I want to know the reason behind things. And so when things come along that kind of enlighten me in that way, when it sets my bells off and it flashes my lights, and I go, oh, wow, maybe other people would like to hear this too. And so, hopefully that's what I'm going to get across here today. But one of the things that we do with this is give you an explanation, and I've done it before about some of the quantum mechanics that 100 years ago, scientists found that they could take a particle of a photon, or in other words, a particle of light, and they could shoot it through a slit in a piece of metal, and they could measure it on a wall behind it where it hit. So they put two slits, and they would shoot one there, and shoot one there, and shoot one there, and shoot one there, and the particles would show up in a pattern of two columns on that wall behind it. And they thought, okay, now we know what matter is, and of course those photons, those particles, a particle, there's two different differentiates, a particle and a wave. Particle has mass and energy. The wave doesn't. So what happened was, as they were doing these experiments and observing what was going on, when they turned their back and let the experiment run and nobody was watching it, there was no particles. It turned into waves. Okay? And so they could do that by measuring the effects of what was happening. So how does a particle with mass and energy turn into a wave, or more precisely, how does a wave without mass and energy turn into a particle when it's observed? Okay, well, that's had him puzzled for a long time. Even Einstein thought about that for a long time, and he wasn't quite sure what was going on with it, and he couldn't really explain it. And so then they started looking at particles a little more carefully, and they found out that a particle here could actually be over here at the same time, the same particle. But it could also be here, and here, and here, and here, because people were observing it in those places. So at some point, there's something about the mind, some energy, some force, some spooky entanglement that when we observe, matter responds. Okay? So that being the case, then what of this universe isn't brought forth by our minds, by our thoughts, by those vibrations going out into the world and creating everything that we see around us? It does. Okay? I mean, science has figured that out already. It does. Our mind controls all of it and brings it into existence. That's pretty scary when you think about it. But of course, that's not me. That's somebody who has a strong mind, right? Somebody else has a strong mind. They bring all this stuff into existence. No, it's your mind. It's my mind that brings this into existence for our experience. But now they've taken it a step further in that none of this really exists. That's scary, isn't it? And it doesn't make any sense. Of course, our conscious mind, our ego says, that's bullshit. You know, that's not true because I can touch it, okay, and I can see you there, and I know those chairs are there, so that's real. Well, it turns out, as they study it more and more, it's called biocentrism, that the mind gets data from the surroundings in packets, kind of like how our cell phones work. Okay, when you push the button to make a cell phone call, it actually sends a packet of data, which is up to like 15 bytes or bits, up to the tower or the satellite, depending on what source it's using, bounces it off there and checks, and then it instantly says, yeah, this guy's good, he's paid his bill. Then it comes back and allows the phone to send the call itself to the tower now. Okay, so that little packet floats back and forth instantaneously. Well, turns out our minds work that way too. It records in packets of 0.042 seconds. Okay, and then we start stringing these packets together, and so everything seems like a nice, smooth transition. How many of you have been to the movies lately? Everybody? You remember back in the old days when they had all the stuff going across the screen from the processing of the film and stuff? That's all gone now. But those frames that go by, we sit there and we look at that and we get pulled right into this movie, which is nothing but a bunch of stills, just little packets of information, one behind the other. And it looks real to us on that screen, doesn't it? It looks like real actors and real people. But it's not. It's a total illusion. It's just light casting some image up on a screen in little packets, but fast enough that our mind puts it in order and we see it, and it's just as real. Those people up there on that screen are just as real as the person sitting next to you. So our mind thinks, our ego thinks. That shows you how easy our consciousness, our mind can be tricked. Okay? And that's kind of important because it's the ego, our human consciousness, our experiences that we've had through life, tells us what the world is and what it's all about, and what it means. Okay? According to the ego. Not according to God or truth, but according to the ego. And the best way to explain how the ego interprets everything is 180 degrees opposite of what God does. Okay? So that's kind of scary. If everything that I know and believe is true and real turns out to be 180 degrees opposite of what God created, And what is real? Because what's real is it says in A Course in Miracles, is eternal. Okay, if it's something that can fall apart and disintegrate and disappear, that's not real. It's not going to be around for eternity. Only those things that have been created that are eternal are real. So now we've got an ego that we rely on to get us through our days, and that it's just telling us just the opposite of what we really should be listening to. Under this biocentrism, there's a couple of interesting things that come about how our mind kind of tricks us as well. And maybe some of the medical people can help me. There's a condition called Capgras delusion syndrome. It's when, and it tends to happen to people that have diabetes or migraines, that the person that they're with, their family, their associates, the people they work with, they're convinced are imposters. They've been cloned. They look exactly like the people they used to know, but they're not. Okay, they're convinced that they are absolute strangers. Now, when they look at the mind, in the brain, I should say, there's nothing wrong with it. They can't find any disconnected wires or unplugged extension cords or anything. It's all there, and everything's working perfectly fine, and every other aspect of their life works perfectly fine. And yet those people are convinced to their very core that everyone around them is a clone and an imposter. How does that work? Is our mind that we rely on to tell us the truth about everything really telling us the truth? Well, I just told you a minute ago, the ego tells us just the opposite. Okay, so I'm trying to backtrack and cover my tracks, so to speak. Let you know we get tricked all the time. I've told you before, I worked as a licensed hypnotherapist for a number of years, and when I did that, I was part of a professional association. We had speakers come in from some of the mental health institutes. And there was one up in Marine City. The gentleman came in and he told us about, and this was back when Civil first hit the media, about multiple personalities. They had a person up there that had multiple personalities. She had about 10 or 12 of them. And this individual would go into a character and the color of her eyes would change. Okay? And then when she was in a different character, her eye color would go back. She became a trucker in one of her characters, gained 100 pounds and lose it in a week. Okay? That's how easily our mind can be tricked into something, but yet so powerful it can make it happen. Very powerful. So, and we have this power coursing through us all the time because God is the universe. God is the core energy, the source of energy through the entire universe and beyond. And that is us. We are part of that. We were created in the likeness and image of that energy. Okay? So we are that. The only difference between us and God is God created us. We didn't create God. But He gave us everything that we needed to do whatever we want and to experience and enjoy our life, the world, the way we want to. And He sent us a demonstration of that a couple thousand years ago. Okay, our elder brother and teacher, Jesus the Christ. He was an example of showing how to tap into that which is everything. Okay? It's running through us now. It's running through this room right now. It's running through every one of us right now. The only thing is we've got an ego that's blocking it, telling it, no, that's not real. That's not true. You know, I mean, that might have been true for him, and it's probably just a fairy tale anyway. You know, a lot of people say the Bible this and the Bible that, and it can't be real. It's just made up stuff. You know, I mean, who can walk on water? Has anybody done that lately? You know, so the ego says that's not true. So it's trying to convince us that we are not the miracles that we truly are, that we're not worthy of being embraced and wallow in the love of the God that is the creator of everything. We're not worthy of it. And then, of course, along the way, our ego got told that, by parents and teachers and siblings and whoever else told you you weren't worth a plug nickel, and you never would be. You wouldn't amount to anything. And when you're little, you accept a lot of those things as true. Okay? A little mind has a nightmare. Okay? They see monsters and dragons and ghosts, at night. And it terrifies them. They're struck with fear. Okay? And that's a real experience for them. But is the ghost and the dragons real? No. Okay, but till somebody comes along that they trust and can explain to them, oh, that dragon, that's the curtain over there. Let me turn the light on. See, that's the curtain. Okay, when somebody can point us in the direction and say that is not real, and therefore your fear that you are experiencing seems real to you, but you just made it up. You made up the fear. And it goes back to the story about Adam and Eve. That was kind of what it was about, was that we separated ourselves from God, and out of that came fear. Fear that we were going to be the black sheep of the family forever. That mankind would never be worthy of God's love. Okay, now that's the ego. That's where the ego came from back then. And of course that's not true. But if you believe it like a child believes a nightmare, then you experience that because you're blocking the light that dispels the dragons and the ghost. When we fear ourselves, when we fear what's going on with ourselves, we block the energy of God. Does that mean it goes away? Okay, that we can dismiss it? No, not at all. It's kind of like the sun. At night, we don't see the sun. It's dark, right? But the sun didn't go anywhere. It's shining just as bright as it does 24/7, right? Shines all the time. The earth just blocks it. We get on the dark side of the earth, we don't see the sun. It looks dark to us, but the sun's still shining. Same thing with us. When we get caught in our bodies and we get caught in the fear, the illusions that we created, nobody else creates it. We do, individually. And when we do that, we block that flow of energy from God. Okay, so what's the big deal about that? Well, God is health. God is joy. God is love. God is all the good things that we could experience here on earth. So we don't want to block that. We want to experience that. I do anyway. How many of you would like to experience nothing but joy every day, 24/7? It'd drive you crazy. Okay? See, that was the ego talking, right? The ego says, oh, you couldn't stand something like that. You know? Besides, you're not worthy. You don't deserve that. Okay? And then it'll go around and point to examples why us humans don't deserve to acknowledge and allow that energy of God to flow through us all the time. I brought some notes here. I should look at them once in a while. So we can see that our human mind, our human consciousness tricks us terribly. And when we fall into illness and disease, it's tricked us. It's blocking the energy of God flowing through us. Okay? Now, how many of you think that God gets cancer? Or that God gets liver disease or whatever? Nobody? Of course not, because God is spirit. And so are we. We are spiritual beings. We got tricked when we were young, telling us we were human beings. Okay, we're spiritual beings in a human body. That's all. And as long as we don't block that spirit coming through us, we'll remain in that love and in that health and in that perfect form that God is, because that's what we were created in the image and likeness. So I guess it comes down to, do we want the problem or do we want the answer? I don't know. I want the answer. I want to know how I can get all my blockages out of the way. I want to be able to experience the Creator, the Father, 24/7. And that's overwhelming sometimes, because this morning as we were singing that hymn, greatest thing in all the world is loving you. And as I was loving that spirit that created me, I recognized that that spirit is you, and you, and you, and you, and every one of you. And I love you. And I can say that because I know what my mind puts out comes back. So if I'm loving you, who am I loving to? I'm loving me. When I say me, I'm not talking about Greg in this human form. I'm talking about that spirit which I was created in the image and likeness of. That's what I love. So that same energy has to be projected when we come across illness in people that want to get rid of it. A lot of us think we want to get rid of it, but our ego is telling us something different. And so when we see someone else, whatever we see in them is what we're giving back to ourselves. So if I see illness in you, I'm asking for illness for myself. Does that make sense? Okay. If I'm asking for healing for you, I'm asking for healing for me as well. Now I'm at the point, I'm not worried about the physical part. I want to heal those blockages. I want to get those out of the way. And I don't ever have to worry about this physical part. At some point, it's going to pass on, because it was made, it wasn't created by the Father. But you ever thought about in the Old Testament when they talk about the early people that lived 600, 700, 800 years? Why? Because they didn't have an ego telling them, you're supposed to live 60, 70 years and fall over, dead. They didn't know. They didn't know they were supposed to be sick and crippled up and fall out and die after 60, 70 years. Okay, so they just kept on living. Nobody told them. Finally, I guess they got wore down enough. They said, 600 years is a long time. I think I'll give it a rest. And that's what we do anyway when we reach the point in our lives where we're ready to lay this down. I think that we're the ones that make that decision to do that. And when we do, we enter into that peace, that love that is here right now and passing through each and every one of us. We just have to get our ego, get ourselves out of the way. All that is necessary is the willingness to perceive nothing else but good. Nothing else but joy. Perceive nothing else but peace, harmony, tranquility, happiness, all the good things that you can think of. If that's all we ever perceive, we'll raise our spirit enough to start knocking that blockage out of the way so that we can experience and allow that spirit to flow through us as it was intended. It says, "Blessed are you who ask for the truth of God without fear, for only thus can you learn that his answer is the release from fear." Okay. I should have said earlier that there's basically two emotions, love and fear. One is real, one's an illusion. Love is real. Okay. Fear is what we created, what we made, and it's illusion. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to fall off the cliff. Well, then don't go near the edge. Okay. Why fear it? Just don't go near the edge. Okay. I fear that this life, this body is going to consume me because it's got this going bad and that's going bad. I'm afraid of that. Well, if you're afraid, fear blocks that flow of spirit. So we need to get rid of our fears, and we do that by understanding. Okay, that's how we do it. Just like that child lost its fear of the dragons and the monsters and the ghost when it saw it in the light of what it really is. We can lose our fears when we see them in the light for what they truly are. They were created by nobody else but us. That's a hard pill to swallow. Ego doesn't like that. Ego says nonsense. I didn't create this. That person over there holding the gun created it. or that person over there holding my bank account hostage, or whatever it is, whatever fears we could possibly have. We don't want to accept that we create the fear. We didn't create the situation. Somebody else could have done it. But we create the fear, and that fear is a major block of spirit flowing through us. It doesn't make spirit not exist. It doesn't take any of its power away. It just blocks it from our experience. So if you'll recognize that all disease that you perceive in your mind is in your mind and nowhere else, you will have at least placed it at its source, our mind, ego mind. And where it begins, it must end. For you do have control over your mind, since the mind is the mechanism of decision. So decide today, if not sooner, that you ask for all fear to relieve your mind, to be removed from your mind, because it's just created garbage anyway, and let spirit flow through and experience the true peace and joy that is ours to have. And that, my brothers and sisters, is truth. Thank you. All right, now it's time to get out the collection plates, take up our offering. And as we do that, we take our donation, our tithe, into our hands. And we'll repeat together on the back the words, divine love through me, blessed and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. Somebody sit in my chair and ruin my sleep and make me aware of being alive. Being alive. Somebody need me too much. Somebody know me too well. Somebody pull me up short and put me through hell and give me support for being alive. Make me alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Vary my days. But alone is alone, not alive. Somebody crowd me with love. Somebody force me to care. Somebody make me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive. Being alive. Being alive.
Very good. Thank you. Good joy. We bless this offering to use in the service of our Father so that this place may be a place of healing, a place of understanding, a place of power to all that come here seeking just that. And in the name of the Son we say amen.
Amen.
I should have mentioned too in the biocentrism and the little packets of data that it happens randomly, our experience, but the human mind can't comprehend that and understand it, so we have to put everything in a line, make it linear, like a movie, make it work. Time and space continuum is the invention of the human mind. It doesn't really exist. So these little packets of data, we kind of string them together based on a memory of the last one, okay? But it could turn out that you could have an experience tomorrow that actually happened 2 days ago. See, human mind can't really wrap itself around that. But if you really want something that'll open your mind up, go on YouTube and look at that biocentrism and find out some of the things they're talking about, because all of our science has been based, and all we know has been based on empirical studies, empirical data, meaning something physical that they can get hold of and quantify and measure and stuff. And of course, what we're talking about, okay, isn't one of those physical things that you can get your hands on. We see the physical effects of applying spirit, okay, but if you're going to measure it empirically, you can't do it. Okay, so science is starting to make a giant leap forward. And if you think about it, it was only 500 years ago that the Earth was flat, and if you went over the edge, you just fell off into space. Okay, so it's only been 100 years that they've understood that there's something out there scientifically that they don't understand. And now they're getting closer and closer to putting it together and saying there's a lot to this that now we're understanding, even though the human mind has difficulty understanding it. So it's a lot of fun. You might want to check into that. Do we have any first-timers here today? Anybody here for the first time? Oh, very good. What's your name? Pam? Karen. Karen, okay. Glad to have you here. How did you come to Unity East? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. We're glad to have you here. Should we give her a Unity East zapping here? A warm welcome. Yeah. Karen, we love you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ in you. Amen. Okay, that being said, anything else to come before the congregation? In that case, let's rise and sing our peace song. Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Now peace begins with me, and this is the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. And as we leave here today, let us carry with us the knowledge, the fact that we are one, that we are love, and that I love you. I'll hug somebody. How you doing, Mary?
Oh, I'm clumping along.
All right, good. You're looking good.
Your hands are full.
Yeah, that